You surely can tell it's been a very, very long week for journalists, for everyone in this country, especially those who are in one way or another involved in the Commonwealth Heads of Government meeting. So do excuse us when you see something that is unusual. It's been a long one. Glad we have your company tonight. Thank you so much for tuning into RwandaTV News. I'm Ethan Tashobia, and like I promised you earlier, I'll be joined by, an political analyst, Goroba Mutebi, who will be breaking down some of the events that we've seen so far this week and making sense of the Commonwealth Heads of Government meeting that is taking place here in Kigali. But let's tell you that as we begin this edition of this evening, let us inform you that on Friday, President Paul Kagame met and held discussions with a number of dignitaries currently in the country as part of the CHOGM 2022 here in Rwanda. These include His Highness Tamim bin Hamad Al Thani, the Emir of the State of Qatar, who attended the opening ceremony of CHOGM as the special guest of the President. He also met with the Right Honorable Justin Trudeau, the Prime Minister of Canada, for discussions on strengthening bilateral relations. His Excellency Paul Kagame then had a meeting with President Julius Maada Woni Bio of Sierra Leone, who is also in the country to attend CHOGM. He also held a meeting with Musa Faki Mahamat, the chairperson of the African Union Commission. In other news, President Paul Kagame today opened officially the Commonwealth Heads of Government meeting in Kigali. He noted that 28 years after the genocide against the Tutsi, Rwanda as a nation has been completely transformed. Other dignitaries who spoke at the opening ceremony of CHOGM meeting on Friday agreed with Rwanda's head of state. Betty Mutoni kicks off tonight's bulletin with this very report.
Just 13 years after joining the Commonwealth of Nations, has been able to host the heads of the government meeting. In the welcoming remarks, President Paul Kagame said Rwanda is proud to have hosted the major event.
It's a pleasure and honor to welcome you to the 26th Commonwealth Heads of Government meeting, the 6th in Africa, and the first since our world was turned upside down by a devastating pandemic. I want to welcome you all to Rwanda. Ours is a country that was torn apart by genocide and division just a generation ago. Today, we are a nation transformed in heart, mind, and body. Three-quarters of our population are young people with no memory of those events. Everything we do, including joining the Commonwealth in 2009, is aimed at making sure that our people are connected, included, and forward-looking. We are delighted that through CHOGM, you have the opportunity to get to know us, and we aim to repay that trust with many years of continued friendship.
On behalf of Queen Elizabeth II, His Royal Highness Prince Charles emphasized the value of the Commonwealth and identified Rwanda as a good example of what is possible.
We should never forget the things which do not change. The close and trusted partnership between Commonwealth members, our common values and shared goals, and perhaps most importantly, the strong and enduring connections between the peoples of the Commonwealth which strengthen us all. These shared values, goals, and friendships transcend the ties of shared history, as we saw in welcoming Mozambique and Rwanda to this great family of nations. And now, coming to Rwanda for the first time, visiting the Genocide Memorial and speaking to survivors, I have been overwhelmed by the resilience, grace, and determination of the Rwandan people. Today, Rwanda upholds so much that is extraordinary as a center for innovation, a world leader in women's empowerment, a growing hub for the green economy, and a commitment to a united future.
Rwanda is going to lead the Commonwealth for the next 2 years, replacing the UK that had been the chair of the political association since 2018.
I'm honoured to perform the final duty of the United Kingdom as chair in office of the Commonwealth and hand over the baton to President Kagame and wish him every success as chair of our unique association, encompassing 54 countries and a third of humanities. One of our newest members is now at the helm, and more nations are seeking to join. For now, it only remains for me to thank every Commonwealth member for having given the United Kingdom the chance to serve as chair in office. And as I pass on this responsibility to President Kagame, a close friend and a partner, I know that he shares my boundless optimism about the future of the Commonwealth at the forefront of the international agenda and benefiting all our peoples.
The effects of the COVID-19 pandemic have continued to be felt globally, not least of all among Commonwealth members, which why calls were made for the association to be exemplary in the way it handles the situation.
We will have to respect each other and find what joins us. We must trust each other. We must talk and listen to each other and give all that we have to achieve progress for the 2.5 billion people we all represent. But here, in Rwanda, something else is at stake, something even more transformational. The world is changing. People are anxious. I understand the pressure on each and every head of state today.
Other dignitaries who attended the opening ceremony of Commonwealth Heads of the Government meeting included His Highness Sheikh Tamim Hamad Al Thani from Qatar, who was the special guest of President Paul Kagame. Betty Mutoni, RwandaTV News.
Very historic event today, in whichever way you look at it. Rwanda hosting the Commonwealth Heads of Government meeting and being the youngest member of the Commonwealth. Very historic event indeed. Now, another story is still related to CHOGM. On Friday afternoon, President Paul Kagame attended a reception hosted by the Secretary General of the Commonwealth, Patricia Scotland. I should tell you that she was re-elected today to lead the Commonwealth. During the reception, dignitaries were given a presentation of the agreements that were signed between the Commonwealth Secretariat and the World Trade Organization, geared closing the economic gaps between developing and developed nations in the association. Soja Nore reports.
The agreement will, among other things, boost trade between the Commonwealth countries themselves.
But the partnership between the two organizations will be paramount in enabling us to strengthen Commonwealth's trade advantage. You will know that the Commonwealth advantage is one of our greatest strengths. It sees 20% more trade between Commonwealth countries at 21% lower bilateral costs and a 27% increase in intra-Commonwealth trade and investment over these last 6 years. We have an enormous opportunity to work together on digital trade, on e-commerce. Because of our history, we have an opportunity to craft the right regulatory and statutory structures to deliver our agenda and hopefully to help us deliver the 2 trillion inter-Commonwealth trade by 2030.
The timely implementation of the agreement is also crucial.
This cannot come into force until 2/3 of our members ratify the agreement or, in proper legal terms, deposit their instruments of acceptance with the WTO. I strongly encourage you to act expeditiously to deposit your instruments of acceptance. It is our fish particularly the fish of developing countries that is being overfished illegally. Many Commonwealth countries have huge ocean resources that are being mined by others. Let's act fast. The WTO staff are on standby to assist. Third, I hope all Commonwealth countries will abide by the decisions and declarations made on food security and refrain from imposing export restrictions and prohibitions on food and agricultural products. Many members are net food importers, and such actions are detrimental to the good functioning of international food and agricultural markets.
A fund has been set up to help promote professional fishing practices, assisting more than 260 million fishermen globally. Inter-trade in the Commonwealth remains at just 20%, while trade between its countries and others worldwide is not faring much better, at 21%.
Thank you, Serge, for that report. Now, up to 15 First Ladies currently in the country as part of the Commonwealth Heads of Government meeting, Rwanda 2022 event that is happening. They today visited the Kigali Genocide Memorial. Meanwhile, officials in Rwanda's Ministry of National Unity and Civic Engagement have noted that the meeting will help more people around the world to learn about the truth of the 1994 genocide against the Tutsi that happened in this country 28 years ago. Serge Nori has more.
Upon arrival at Gisozi, the First Ladies paid their respects at the graves of the more than 250,000 genocide victims buried there, and government officials noted on the importance of the sort of exposure events like Chogam provides for Rwanda's tragic past and the lessons the entire world needs to learn. In brief, they commended the fact that there is a memorial center that shows the country's history, especially the role of colonialism in dividing the people through tribalism. They also applauded the government of national unity for bringing people back together as one, under the identity of being Rwandan, following the end of the genocide against the Tutsi, and were amazed by the progress the country has made and encourage us to continue on that path. We are certainly encouraged when people from elsewhere come and see how far we have come, becoming a country where all citizens are valued, and will continue to support our president in his vision, learning from our history as Rwandans and fighting anything that may seek to divide us. Such visits also have an impact abroad, not just here in Rwanda. First, it helps us because they get to see that the seriousness of the genocide and how far the country has come since that time are true. We are not making this up because they can see the truth. Second, it helps us to fight the culture of impunity because the fact is, most of the people responsible for planning and implementing the genocide are living abroad. It helps them to understand that the people who did this should be held accountable. And thirdly, such visits help us in that people that still have genocidal ideologies and use social media sites online to propagate them while living abroad, negating and denying the genocide against the Tutsi, can then be seen as the threats that they are, and a more preventive approach through cooperation can be taken when addressing such issues of people who spread hate and divisionism, so that they can be stopped in engaging in such activities that destroy. In the messages the First Ladies left in the guest book at the memorial, they denounced the genocide against the Tutsi and called for efforts to ensure that such atrocities are never allowed to happen again anywhere else in the world. They included the First Ladies of Jamaica, Lesotho, the Maldives, Botswana, Sri Lanka, Cameroon, and Seychelles.
Now, the British Prime Minister Boris Johnson has said that his government will do everything they can to bring to justice genocide fugitives who live in his country. Boris was speaking during a press briefing held in Kigali on the sidelines of the ongoing Commonwealth Heads of Government meeting. Here is more. Prime Minister, my name is Ethan. I'm from RwandaTV. Rwanda and the UK are working together on several development projects. As a matter of fact, the UK is the biggest donor in Rwanda. Are you satisfied with the results that you've seen so far in your few days here? And what memories do you take with you back home?
Look, I was longing to come to Rwanda. I was very sad that the summit kept being postponed. It has certainly lived up to my expectations. It's an incredible country, and clearly the product of really vaulting imagination, to take somewhere that had really been in the very depths of despair after the genocides, and then to work and work and work to create a culture, an environment that is clean, focused on so many things, so many values that I think are admirable. So, you know, whatever the difficulties that may exist between my country and Rwanda about this or that, and of course there are going to be issues that we're going to continue to raise, and quite properly. But my overwhelming impression is of a remarkable country, and I wish I'd been able to see some of the countryside. What you can certainly take away from what the Prince had to say today in his opening address to the summit is that everyone can see the huge progress that Rwanda has made.
And if you could as well tell us, Togo, Gabon, and Zimbabwe are requesting to rejoin the Commonwealth. Do you have the latest from the meetings you had? Thank you.
Well, your question about Gabon and Togo, we'll just have to wait and see. And Zimbabwe, that is a matter for the Commonwealth.
Disappointed about the Baroness Scotland re-election?
Look, you know, I think it's a good day for democracy. What is the Commonwealth? It is an amazing group of 54 countries that share values, and in particular the idea of democracy. And I work well with Baroness Scotland, have done for a very long time, since I became Foreign Secretary, I think, and look forward to working well with her in the next couple of years. Now, this is a crucial time for the Commonwealth. I think people are looking more and more to this institution. More and more countries want to join it. They see the value of it. And so we'll be doing everything we can simultaneously to help strengthen the Commonwealth Secretariat and really deliver value for Commonwealth members. Let's go to Berna Namata from the East African.
Thank you, Prime Minister. My question regards to your outgoing role as chair of the Commonwealth. Do you take responsibility for abandoning the developing members of the Commonwealth during the pandemic with travel bans, reluctance to share vaccines, reducing the aid budget, and more recently, the UK not availing its unused SDR reserves? Thank you.
Thank you very much. Well, Berna, actually, I think when you look at what the UK did during the pandemic, it was pretty remarkable. And I know that, you know, we would always want to do more, but particularly when it came to vaccines that you mentioned, we supplied the people, the Oxford AstraZeneca vaccine that was supplied at cost, thanks to the deal that we did with AstraZeneca, thanks to the investments we made in that project. 1.4 billion doses were distributed around the world. It was the world's most popular vaccine, I think. And I mean, I had it. I don't know if anybody else has had AstraZeneca. It was something that was made possible thanks to the contribution of the UK, of UK ODA spending, and I think that's a great thing. James, but by the way, may I say, as an outgoing chair in office, you mentioned our job as chair in office of the Commonwealth. I just want to pay particular tribute to Rwanda for what they're doing. I think it has been a fantastic summit so far, and I wish them every possible success. I wish President Kagame every possible success. James Karahanga from the New Times.
Thank you, Prime Minister. Thank you, Prime Minister. I listened to the responses you gave the UK Parliament a few days ago about the question of the genocide fugitives in your country. And I keep wondering, is justice delayed, not just denied? What's your take on that? Yeah. Is it even a Commonwealth value to delay justice for over 2 decades?
Thank you very much, James. And this is a case of I think it's the 4 génocidaires who are in London, and I answered a question in Parliament the other day, and look, I went to the Genocide Memorial yesterday, and nobody could go there without being absolutely harrowed by what happened here in Rwanda. I understand people's feelings, and so what I said to President Kagame yesterday is that I will do everything I can to try to expedite this. It is in that, so you understand, it's in the hands of the Metropolitan Police. I can't intervene directly, but I will certainly be raising it with them. And I understand why people in Rwanda feel as you do. I completely agree, and that's why I've said what I've said to you, to President Kagame. If we can do anything more to bring genocidaires to justice, then we will certainly do that. And what I've said I will do is raise it with the Metropolitan Police. And we're having, as you know, a new head of the Met very soon.
I'm glad you're still watching RwandaTV. My name is Frederick Golobam TV, your guest anchor tonight. Some of the participants of the Commonwealth Heads of Government meeting say that it was a good platform to share ideas and learn from each other. They also say that it served as an opportunity to expand their business activities through networking. Olive Nete reports.
In the meetings of various forums, a series of discussions held focused on strategies that can bring changes that can contribute to the development of the 54 member countries of the Commonwealth. Some of the participants say that they learned way more than what they expected.
Expectations, I was so eager to meet with people, to connect. In short, networking. I was also expecting partnerships. It was a forum full of diplomats and business people. So outcomes, I think the things I've gotten are more than what I expected, because I met with many different people. We learned from each other, and some people are ready to invest in this country. They are ready to do the business here. So it's an opportunity for Rwandans, because to create jobs.
In addition to the ideas and knowledge gained, the participants of various forums had the opportunity to exhibit their products. Kamanzi Jean de Dieu, one of the people who exhibited, said that it was a good opportunity to expand the market.
Some of the opportunities include the fact that we are able to do advertisements of our products, because we produce various things in potatoes like bread, biscuits and many other products. So this helped us in marketing, but also assisted us in expanding our market outside Rwanda and in Rwanda as well.
Tristan Murenzi, one of the members of the organizing committee of the 12th Youth Forum, speaks about the outcomes of the Youth Forum based on the expectations they had.
We are glad of the outcomes we got. While planning for the 12th CYF, we were expecting to get 3 project outcomes from the 6 themes of the 6th program themes, including governance and the rule of law, sustainability, trade and entrepreneurship, human capital development, health and COVID, and others. And we're expecting to get 3 outcomes or 3 projects outcomes from the CYF. However, the General Assembly, when convened on the 3rd and last day of the CYF, agreed to adopt 6 projects, which means we delivered more than 100%, because the good thing is that we were able to connect with these people. We were able to connect and learn from them, and they were also able to connect and learn from us, from our experience. And we look forward to the next 2 years, because in this next 2 years we'll be implementing these 6 outcomes. So I do think that it will be a good opportunity to continue connecting, because many people think that when we are talking about the program or when we are talking about the CYF, it's just this 2 or 3 days event. But it is more of implementing what we have agreed on for the next 2 years. And working together as these 1.4 billion people is already the first step to achieving the world we want.
Forums of the Commonwealth that were attended by various people include the Women's Forum, People's Forum, the Business Forum, and the Youth Forum, which makes up to 60% of the population of English-speaking countries. Olive Nete, RTV News.
All right, Olive Nete brings us to what we've been waiting for, what we told you earlier in our social media platforms. Frederick Goloba Mutebi joins us here on RwandaTV to tell us about what he has actually seen on what is happening in Kigali, the Commonwealth Heads of Government meeting. Now, this man, first of all, is threatening my job, and this is not something new that he... Well, it's a bit different. I know I've known him as a writer for so many years. He's a political scientist. He's he's an analyst. Of course, you've seen him many times. He's a writer, but he's an independent researcher. And thank you so much for finding time to join us.
My pleasure. Thank you for inviting me.
You should consider anchoring as your next job.
I've done it for just a few minutes, but I thought I was getting quite comfortable. I might threaten your job. Very soon.
I'm actually very happy. I mean, we don't easily get people like you joining us here, and to act like anchors. So thank you so much for accepting. Now let's dive straight to what is happening in the region, rather in the country, the Commonwealth. I mean, I was telling people that it's very historic, but from your own perspective, as someone who understands politics, how historic is this event?
Well, it's very historic, at least from the point of view of Rwandans, because first of all, Rwanda is a very young member of the Commonwealth. It joined in 2009. It's the youngest. It couldn't have been obvious that Rwanda would be accorded the privilege of hosting this summit. So I think that the fact that this summit has happened here only a few years down the road since Rwanda acceded to the membership of the Commonwealth means that the organization and its members take the country very seriously. It also means that the government of Rwanda would have engaged in some deft footwork to convince members that not only was it a suitable venue for this summit, but that it also possessed the capacity to pull off a successful event. As we have all seen, it has been very successful. It hasn't ended completely, but at least those of us who have had the privilege to attend the forums that we have been to, we have seen really quite impressive organization. I think that Rwanda has now proved itself as a very able and skilled organizer of large events of this kind.
Okay, talking about impressions, let's talk about the impressions in terms of the content and what is being discussed. What are your impressions so far? I mean, I know we still have a day to go, but what have been your impressions in regards to the content and what is being discussed?
Well, I was fortunate to be able to register to attend 3 forums: the People's Forum, the Women's Forum, and the Business Forum. In all these forums, a lot of very serious issues were being discussed, issues of great importance, not only to the Commonwealth, but to the world at large. I mean, people were talking about climate change and how to mitigate the effects of climate change. People were talking about women in development, how to ensure that women's rights are respected. People were talking about gender-based violence and how that can be prevented and how men can be co-opted into participating in efforts to prevent gender-based violence. I went to the People's Forum, and there they were discussing things to do with health and how best to deliver health to especially poor and marginalized communities, and how to improve the quality and delivery of health care, generally speaking. They were also talking about things like governance, and how to establish effective systems of government that are able to deliver services to people, especially in countries like ours. But for me, the highlight of all this was the Business Forum. The sessions I attended there, I attended one on the collaboration between the Kigali International Financial Center and Jazz Finance. And I was very struck by this very interesting partnership between Rwanda and the government of Jersey, which is not one of the traditional donors. So there is a sense in which the government of Rwanda is thinking outside the box as far as sourcing external assistance to try and pursue and achieve some of its objectives is concerned. And I was made to wonder why it is that other African governments are not doing the same. Because you see, whenever we want help, we look to the United States, USAID, we look to the UK, we look to France, Belgium, and so on. Increasingly to China and to some degree Russia as well. But I think that when you look at the way the government of Rwanda has gone about the task of transforming this country, you see that they have brought in the Qataris here. The Emirate of Qatar is a big development partner for Rwanda.
And he was attending the
Emir. And the Emir of Qatar was here. There are countries like Estonia. Rwanda has partnerships with Estonia. Rwanda has been very unconventional in this kind of way, in that it partners with countries which are not traditional donors, but it also partners with organizations.
Like FIFA, for instance.
Yes. FIFA was here. So I think that this is something that is very creative that other governments could try to learn from.
Brilliant. Now, let me ask two questions. I will just ask them at once, and then you'll briefly look at them. How relevant is Commonwealth Heads of Government, Commonwealth actually as an association, especially to the young people? And what do you think Rwanda should focus on, going into holding the chairmanship? President Kagame now takes over as the chairman of the Commonwealth.
Well, if you consider how young people gain from the Commonwealth or membership of their countries in the Commonwealth, I think that they actually gain more than other groups, because from my experience, the Commonwealth is most active in the cultural arena. The organization hands out thousands of scholarships to students across the entire membership of the 54 states. A lot of young people from these countries go to study in British universities on Commonwealth scholarships. Some will go to Switzerland, New Zealand, others will go to Australia. So at the level of cultural exchange, this involves mainly young people. When I was a student in the United Kingdom, I benefited from a program courtesy of the Commonwealth that allowed at the time, I don't know if it still happens now, but I hope it does.
At least I know there is a chevening program happening at least.
Yeah, but there was another program. Because you see, if you go to the United Kingdom as a student, you're not allowed to work. But under a program championed by the Commonwealth, you're actually able to work for 2 years if you're from a Commonwealth country. And I took advantage of that program, and it was a kind of bridging program between my master's degree and my doctorate. And this also is a very useful window that young people can use to gain some work experience there. So young people have a lot of ways in which they can benefit from the Commonwealth.
Briefly about expectations on
now, expectations, I would like to think that if we look at how President Kagame managed the AU when he was chairman of the AU for the 1 year that he was very active. He set up various committees to champion some of the interests of the continent. He brought together a lot of Africans, men and women living abroad, even living in Africa, to put the expertise at the disposal of the African Union. I would like to believe that he's going to be a very active chairman of the Commonwealth, and that he's going to do some of the creative things that we saw him doing for the AU, for the Commonwealth.
Let's wish him luck.
Indeed.
Frederick Gorobamtevi, a political scientist, researcher, writer. Thank you so much indeed for finding time to join us here.
My pleasure. Thank you for inviting me.
Thanks a lot. Well, my time is fast spent. Many thanks for joining us on this RwandaTV edition. From me and the entire news production team, we say thank you indeed for sparing time to watch this Bulletin.